Hello everyone. Thank you for joining my homebuyer seminar. This is typically a course that I provide for first-time homebuyers on the third Thursday of the month, right in my Lakeville office. I do this in conjunction with our local lender, Maddie Bajoram with American Mortgage and Equity Consultants, and Gibraltar Title, Lancet Insurance Agency, and Homesite Inspections. This is a course that I just find really helpful for first-time buyers to kind of help them learn about the process and how to navigate through. Why do we do this? Because it's a great opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about the process, to understand all the different aspects or the major milestones of the transaction, and understand who they need to contact for various aspects of it, whether it's improving their credit, understanding a little bit more about the home buying process, or some of the things that come after they've put in an offer on the property. Many important decisions to be made. Our typical home buying timeline from start to finish is approximately 8 to 12 weeks, assuming that that client has met with a lender, already understands what they need to do with their finances, everything's in good standing, and they've been with their employer for at least a couple of years. Once someone actually puts in an offer on a property in the form of a purchase agreement, that process could go as quickly as 6 weeks from placing that offer to actually receiving their keys and moving into that first home. Some of the advantages of home ownership are just having that place to call your own, something that you can make your own, put in your own paint colors, whatever it is that you need to make it comfortable for you and your loved ones. It's just a wonderful way to put your stamp on your own home. Some more simple things to think about are just simply that pride of ownership and independence of owning your own home. Most homeowners are typically a little bit more vested in their community around them, and they're going to take care of that home to a little bit better degree than a renter might, because they're fully vested in that community and to making it a better place to live. Other things to think about are the tax savings. Did you know most recently the IRS has created another tax exemption process for you if you are saving for a home? You can actually take your interest that you are deducting from that amount as a tax credit, which is really can be a little bit helpful if you're really saving strategically for a $15,000 to $20,000 down payment. That might be a little bit significant for you as far as tax savings. Other things to think about are mortgage interest and property taxes. If you are buying an investment property, you can also deduct the normal things that you need to do to improve that home versus a home that you might use for your own personal benefit. The different phases of the transaction, you'd be surprised that really phase one should be the mortgage pre-approval, but it is really helpful to know how much you can afford before you ever walk and take step foot into someone else's home. The sellers really don't want buyers that are not pre-approved walking through. Typically myself as an agent, I will take somebody that's pre-approved out one time, and then the expectation is that they're working with a lender and getting that pre-approval letter in writing. For the sake of today, I'm going to cover phase two of our home search. I don't think the time allotted would really allow us to dive any deeply into the purchase agreement, so we're going to skip that for today. So as far as phase two, our home search, what do you think about when you're talking about looking for a home? We want to look at market conditions as the number one thing. Is it a seller's market or a buyer's market? Who is it most advantageous to at that time? If it's more beneficial to a seller, then it might be a little bit more competitive for that buyer to get into that home, and that's the way it's been for the last couple of years, which is awesome for a seller, but not so easy to navigate for a new buyer. So before I really jump any more into that, I really want to talk to you about what does a real estate professional do? Well, number one, we want to get out and have a really good grasp of what's going on in our current market. Again, knowing what kind of market we're in, buyer or seller, what are houses selling for in specific areas that we might specialize in. Are we talking about the upper echelon homes, medium, or on the low end? Where are we choosing to focus most of our energy? Once we kind of know what our niche is, then we want to get out and pre-approve those homes, take a look at them, understand the neighborhood, anything that we need to understand about the community, special needs, whether we're dealing with a gated community or something that's more open and incongruent to families and people walking through. Um, what kind of community are we investing in? Are we getting out and getting to know people in our community? Best way I find to do that is to volunteer. Volunteer for an organization. I volunteer at my church. I volunteer for Girl Scouts of America. Um, I've volunteered at my children's schools since they were old enough to go, just because I think it's really important to understand what's going on around you. And then what else is going on? Are there art festivals? How else can I get engaged and have a better grasp of what's going on in my community? In Lakeville, we have what's called our annual Panaprog event in July. I think it's awesome to get out and connect with families one-on-one and business owners and really have that better grasp of all the different components of what's going on. And then, as agents, when we're working with our clients for that first time, we usually present something called an agency and relationships, so that we understand that we're explaining to our buyers, what kind of representation is there? There's so many different types of relationships, you'd be surprised. We have our typical buyer or seller, yes, but there's other things like we can act as a facilitator. We can do one-time transactions if someone really doesn't want to get actively on the market, but they want to do it, maybe set up a one-time showing. We can do lots of unique things to help people depending on what their situation is and how much that they can afford to get that help. As we're going to dive a little bit deeper, we're going to talk about the different sides of the transaction. We've got our buyer and we have our seller. For the sake of this course, I'm mainly dealing with buyers, but it's really important to understand, what's happening on both sides. A buyer, they need to know what they have for closing costs available to them. They need to know what their purchase price of that home is going to be. They need to know how much money they need to come up with for a down payment. And then if they're not putting 20% down, we might be dealing with an escrow account, which is simply allowing your lender to pay for your taxes and insurance up front so that that lender feels confident that those payments are being made on time each month. And then we have that final loan amount. How much am I going to be responsible for paying back over a period of time? Is that a 30-year mortgage? Is that an adjustable arm so I can get a lower interest rate? What kind of all those aspects of what the buyer needs to know. On the sell side, the seller needs to know, what am I going to get reasonably for my purchase price? What am I going to have to pay an agent in commission? So that I know really what's it going to come down to, what's my bottom line going to be at the end when I finally sell my house, in addition to those closing costs, so that they know how much money they have to get to that next phase of life or to purchase another home. In the real estate world, we have a love-hate relationship with shows like HGTV, like such as Fixer Upper and Property Brothers. There's other things like the DIY network and just social media in general. So many different places that you can go to find out what you think houses are supposed to look like. And why that's a love-hate relationship is simply because people get this false idea of how fast the process works, how we deal with hurdles, what the conditions of a home really look like, compared to what they look like on TV. Really, bringing a buyer back down to reality and saying, no, it's not going to be this perfect TV staged home. Sometimes it might be a little dirty, sometimes it might be a little messy, but helping them to look past all of those things and understand really how to look at the value of a home beyond all of those things. So just to kind of navigate that initial buyer through the process, we kind of give them an overview of how the process works and things that they need to take into consideration to know if they're ready. So it usually begins with that desire to buy. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to do this. And they might come through an open house. They might be trolling around on Realtor.com or Trulia or Zillow and clicking boxes and saying, sure, go ahead and you can email me about that house, or yes, I would like to see this house. And then they might connect with somebody like me as a result. That's a real estate agent. Some of the things that we have to talk to them about, have you even spoken with a lender? Do you know what a pre-approval letter is? Do you know how much it costs to buy a house? How much do you think you might need for a down payment? All of these financial decisions that they need to make to enter the process. From there, if they haven't already found a realtor, they're going to connect with somebody like me, and it's really important to work with somebody that you trust, because they're going to be handling a lot of your financial documents. They're going to be able to help you navigate through the purchase of what might be a $500,000 house in some cases. That's a lot of money. Most people don't have that sitting in their back pocket, so that's a huge decision. So you definitely want to be working with an individual that you trust. Um, that next step, if they haven't gotten pre-approved for a mortgage, I'm going to set them up with some individuals that I know in the industry that I know will do a great job for my clients, and get them to sit down and talk through the process and see if there's anything that they need to do to get pre-qualified for a mortgage. Sometimes there's a period of time. I've had clients that need to work for a good 6 months to a year to restore or establish credit before they can buy. And so it's really important to know some of those things up front. From there, they're going to work with somebody to help them get pre-approved to that process, whether that's their loan officer or somebody else that they work with in the industry, and really start navigating through setting money aside if they haven't already done so, learning how much and how long it might take them to make that first purchase. From there, they're going to find out through that process how much they can afford, and part of that is initially looking at their own budget, seeing what they're comfortable paying on a monthly basis. Um, then we're going to look at properties on the internet. We're going to take a look at a few properties in person and kind of start to narrow down that scope of what type of house am I looking for, how many bedrooms that I need, how many bathrooms do I need, all of those things. So from there, it's like, congratulations, woohoo, we finally made it. You're finally ready to get out and start looking at some houses. So number one thing that most people take into consideration is location. In the real estate industry, location is huge. We want to know, am I going to have a reasonable commute to work or to school? Are there other things that I like to do? Maybe I play sports on the side. Maybe there's friends and family that I'm deeply connected to that I want to make sure I have a reasonable driving distance to. If I have kids or plan to have children, am I in a school district that's comfortable for me or my family, or do I have to make some changes to some of those things? Are there retail stores and clubs and gyms and things that I like to go to within a reasonable distance? Are there parks and trails? If I have a dog, is there a dog park nearby? Are there other dogs in the area that I want my pet to associate with? All of those things. Can I walk to the store? Can I walk to, a bus or whatever I need to get to? Lots of important things to take into consideration. Once we have that area narrowed down, then we're going to set them up on a customized search. So we're going to actually be targeting them via email or online with specific styles of homes that they like, in neighborhoods that they're comfortable with, styles of homes. Maybe there's a wheelchair accessibility issue. We might be looking for ramblers. So all those things we have to take into consideration when we set up that automated search. From there, we'll actually physically get out and start looking at some properties, narrowing down that scope even more. There's lots of things that you cannot see in a picture. You can't see odors. You can't see what the neighbor's house looks like. You can't see how the home is laid out. You kind of get a basic idea, but we're always very creative in the real estate world with our pictures and, maybe making that home look a little bit bigger with a wide angle lens. So it's really different when you're getting out and start looking at them in person. Is it big enough for all of my things? Does it have enough bedrooms? Does it have enough bathrooms? Is the bathroom layout going to work for myself and my spouse? All of those things. And then what I think is really important for your clients to do, to get out in that neighborhood by themselves, go drive by at different times of day. Take for a walk. If you have kids or you've got a dog, load them up in the wagon, get them out in the neighborhood, and interact with the people in the community and see if you'd be comfortable living there. Go to the local parks. Go out, to the shopping in the area. See if you're comfortable, and you will find that many neighbors will talk to you, and if they're not willing to, maybe, it's time to find a different area. So I hope that I've answered most of your questions today. If you have anything further that you think of, please feel free to reach out. I'd always love to talk to you. Because of my job, I'm typically available at most times of day. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching my slides. Take care. God bless.